day, ladies and gentlemen. Patch 1.3 releases in about 12 hours from now, and they have just released the patch notes for patch 1.3. Very exciting times. We're going to go through those right now to see if there are any gems that are going to be particularly exciting for us, and the good news is that there are, so let's get stuck straight into it. So first of all, just so we're really clear, there's you're going to hear a lot of mention of heroic mode, which is a new difficulty mode that has been released or about to be released in this patch. Now, heroic mode exists above challenge mode. It's the hardest difficulty in the game now, and it has level 35 enemies. So you won't expect any sort of different enemies or different stuff. It's all the same. It's just that the enemies have a higher level. They're level 35. Many of you are probably thinking, oh my god, how the hell could we do with another difficulty level? Challenge mode is hard enough as it is. But let me tell you that there are a very small percentage of super geared players that are really looking for a challenge like this, and it works really, really well for them. So that's heroic mode. That comes out not this week. It actually comes out next week. So the intent is that the developers will release all of their new content on everything but the hardest difficulty level on the first week, and then the hardest difficulty level, heroic mode, opens up a week after that, and we assume that's so that we can sort of bug test everything, make sure there are no game-breaking exploits, because the very best gear will come from heroic mode, and they want to make sure we're not getting our hands on the best gear through nasty exploits. The developers have also announced that 2 new challenge mode / heroic mode missions are going to be made available. That's Hudson Refugee Camp and Queen's Tunnel Camp. So right now we have things like we have Russian Consulate, we have Warrengate, we have Lexington, etc. We've got those ones that we've already had since day dot. Now we're going to have 2 more challenge / heroic mode missions, which is very nice indeed. There is a new section of the base of operations called the Terminal, which is a new shared social space inside the base of operations. It's actually going to be found at the very back of the base of operations next to the reward claim vendor, and it's in there that you're going to be able to do all of your stuff for the underground. So queuing up missions and the vendors and all that sort of stuff, that's all located in there. Perhaps the most exciting aspect of this patch is the ability to recalibrate our weapons. That is coming in this expansion. It was actually demoed during the special report. Essentially, it works almost exactly the same as it does for gear recalibration. You basically walk up to the guy, you have to spend a certain type of currency, almost. It's called like a weapon recalibration kit, which you can actually make these using your crafting materials, or you can loot them. And basically choose which talent you would like to recalibrate, and then select the recalibration. Select the option. We know which one you'd prefer from the drop down. Interesting to note that if you are recalibrating the 3rd talent slot on your weapon, right, the free talent slot where you don't have to worry about any of the requirements, the new talent that you get will also be free of requirements. So it's a really nice change there. So they've also added a new gear score bracket, 2, 3, 1. So the very, very geared amongst us will be rocking around in there now. And in that, they've also announced that DZ5 and 6 will actually have level 35 enemies. So you can definitely expect the challenge to scale there. Stash size is going up. It's going to 70 slots, up from 40 at the moment, which is a really nice increase. I'm sure that all of us want even more than that. I certainly do, but hey, listen, 70 is a great start, so that's a really, really good addition to patch 1.3. A change that you might not notice is one that it's an important one, to be honest. Rebalanced NPCs' weak points to be more consistent across the board. This impacts the amount of damage needed to trigger them and the amount of damage it does when it's triggered. And one of the biggest challenges of certain types of enemies is that their weak spots aren't really all that weak. In particular, grenadiers who have those grenadier pouches on their thighs, you could shoot those things for days and the mob will actually die before those pouches explode. It's basically pointless. And there's a few other examples like that. So knowing that these weak spots are going to be easier to trigger is going to be better. I'm not sure what it means when it says the amount of damage has been changed as well. Hopefully that means more damage rather than less. A hugely requested feature has now made it in. You can now convert 3 high-end division tech into 1 sort of crafting material of your choice, high-end crafting material. So things like electronic electronics and tools that people are really struggling to get their hands on at the moment, even though they might have like 999 high-end division tech, you've now got a way to get some of that, which is really great. They're also going to be reducing the cost, or the Phoenix credit cost, of 204 high-end and 240 gear set items and blueprints. Now, this is pretty clearly so that people who are heading up the gear curve are going to have access to these items more cheaply. So, you know, basically anyone that's at the end game and really chasing best in slot items doesn't really need to worry about this change, because, you know, you're going to be interested in better stuff than this. But if you're just starting out and you want to be able to earn some gear through Phoenix credits, then this is going to make your life a little bit easier. A small change, but a good one. Adjustments have been made to NPC threat lists that cause players to stay in cover for large periods of time. You will now leave combat after reaching a certain distance away from the enemy, or after a set amount of time. So this is really annoying in a lot of missions where you kill something and then you need to basically run to the other side of the map to get out of combat before you can fast travel. So hopefully we won't be seeing any more of that. Players can now matchmake from inside no respawn areas and can fast travel into activities while the group is in a no respawn area. One of the challenges that people are facing is in incursions, in missions, in all sorts of places. If you're in a no respawn spot, someone drops from your group or whatever, bad luck. You essentially cannot replace that person at the moment. So this change will see it so that you actually can do that, which is really, really helpful. One of the things that the developers said they wanted to do in this patch was to sort of smooth out the gear RNG. You know, right now there's a lot of different stats on gear and it's sort of really hard to get exactly what you want. So in patch 1.3, they're changing things up slightly. They're actually going to normalize or set the number of gear slots that appear per gear item, you know, in your inventory that you have equipped. So right now, things like you could get a chest that has no mod slots on it, and you could think, oh, that sucks, I don't want that, and you might be able to recalibrate and get one mod slot and whoop-de-doo, and that's it. So what they're doing now is that they're saying that all chests that drop going forward will have 2 mod slots. All masks will have 1 mod slot, knee pads 1 mod slot, backpack 1 mod slot, and gloves and holsters will have no mod slots at all. But holsters will actually always have 3 attributes now, finally, because obviously those 2 stat holsters were just rubbish. So this is just an awesome change, to be honest with you, because it not only gives us more stats, which is great, it gives us more flexibility over what those stats are, because we get to deliver them through mod slots, which is awesome. And it also takes one set of, I guess, stats off the RNG table, meaning that we have a better chance of rolling things like crit, you know, on a mask or whatever, because we're already gonna get a mod slot from our mask rather than having to hope that we get whatever. So it's a really, really good change. It smooths out that RNG somewhat and gives us more flexibility over our gear. So super welcomed. Now, the most controversial change of this patch is absolutely the change to Striker and Sentry battle gears. They have been nerfed, and we've now seen what the new gear sets will look like in terms of the set bonuses. The 4-piece bonuses remain intact. So Sentries gives you that stacking damage for headshots, and Strikers will give you more damage, you know, the more consistently you hit the target, generally with an automatic weapon. So the 2, 3, and 5-piece bonuses are new. On Sentry's Call, we see a 10% headshot damage increase for the 2 set. On the 3 set, we see 10% damage to elites. And on the 5 set, we see 20% headshot damage and 10% damage to elites. So we're actually looking at exactly the same power delivered by this set, but stretched out over 5 pieces instead of over 4. Similarly with Striker's battle gear, we see that we now get in the 2-piece bonus 10% enemy armor damage, 3-piece is 20% critical hit damage, and the 5-piece is a 10% enemy armor damage and 30% critical hit damage. So again, it's exactly the same power as we've seen from the existing set, just stretched out over 5 pieces. So that's that. I know a lot of people hate that change. I get it. But this is the way that the developers are choosing to play it. So I guess we're going to have to make a choice about whether or not we want to go deeper into those sets or try something else. Within the Dark Zone, chests now scale better with gear score bracket and the name zone that you're in. So essentially, we could just ignore ignore chests in the Dark Zone at the moment. They never dropped anything good for us. The damage, the item quality that we now get from those will now scale, which is really great. So hopefully we'll have a reason to look at those chests once again. Those of you that really enjoy doing high value target missions are going to be able to continue doing them. They actually have changed or sort of improved the rewards and difficulty in light of the new gear score increase. So they're still going to be a very relevant activity for us. And those of you that were chasing a Caduceus, you now have a chance to get it. It now drops from hard mode mission bosses. So this tells me that the Caduceus is not going to see a level increase. It's still going to be a 182 weapon, which is why they are saying it's available from hard mode mission bosses. Now obviously 182 is a hell of a lot less damage than a 229 weapon, but the power of having an automatic weapon with cool headed on it is just huge. So if you don't have that weapon in your arsenal, then I really recommend that you pick it up, because it can still be a really nice addition to skill power focused builds. Those of you that spend all day every day comparing weapon damages like I do are going to be relieved to know that they have now added a base weapon damage value that makes it easier to compare weapons. Right now we have to basically take all the mods off our weapons to compare it to another weapon to see which one would be better, and now we don't have to do that, which is just awesome. Thank you, Massive. And polishing off the patch notes, there was actually a bunch of bug fixes, which I'm going to go through very briefly now. First of all, fixed a bug with a 4-piece Predator would not trigger the shrapnel effect. So shrapnel is a talent where if you apply a bleed to a target, there is a sort of, I think it's 10% or a 30% chance, one of the two, for that bleed to spread to nearby targets. Now this did actually work on very, very rare occasions on the Predator set. But now it's going to be fixed so it works, when as it's meant to, so you're going to see that happening a lot more, which actually makes this set even more attractive than it already was. I've done a full guide on that set, so if you haven't checked that out, I'll put that in the description below. Fixed a bug where a player using a med kit while having the combat medic talent equipped would result in destroying allied skills proxy. I'm not sure that's the right English, but regardless, what they're saying is that you're no longer going to have your smart cover and other skills removed when someone uses a combat medic enhanced medkit, which is awesome because this was a huge problem. Next up, predatory weapon talent now correctly uses the player's health as the base of the healing amount instead of the target's health. Now this is a big deal because predatory was a hugely efficient talent, because when you kill an enemy, you would basically get back like half your health or more, on the basis of the predatory talent, giving you health back based on the enemy rather than on your own. So now that's been normalized to yourself. It's going to be a significantly less attractive talent, but let's be real, it's fair. It was definitely not intended that it would heal you based on enemy health. Fixed a bug where the Survivor Link signature skill would increase the movement speed while moving backward and carrying an item. So this is specifically for Clear Sky, where people would be running backwards and popping Survivor Link to get a huge speed increase while they were doing that. It was a very funny thing that people found. That is no longer going to be possible. You are going to be walking at normal backward speed. Fixed a bug where the ballistic shield would lose its hitbox after the player performed a roll move. Now this was big. The ballistic shield right now is beyond usable. It's just totally unusable because of this very bug, where your shield would actually look like it's up and you're holding it, but you'd realize that you're actually not blocking anything at all. You're just taking full damage because your shield hitbox has disappeared. So hopefully this will make the ballistic shield far more usable, and we know that there's a gear set that is going to allow us to use an SMG while using a ballistic shield, so it's good to know that they are fixing this one up. Fixed a bug where sometimes reloading wouldn't take extended magazines into consideration. So many of you would have noticed that sometimes when you reload, you're actually still getting the base amount of bullets back into your magazine as opposed to a full mag. So that was a bug and it has been corrected. And finally, and certainly most importantly, fixed a bug where the moon was upside down. I have no idea how I didn't notice this. Obviously, this was a completely game-breaking bug that slipped past us all, but now apparently the moon is the right side up, so we can all sleep better at night. Anyway guys, that's it. That's the full patch breakdown. There's lots of good stuff in this. It's looking like a really good patch, to be honest with you. The underground is awesome. As I said, I played it. The incursion they showed showed off in the special report looks fantastic. It looks way more interesting than most of the other incursions we've seen to date, so that's cool. And a whole bunch of changes throughout these patch notes have really look exciting. So I'm looking forward to 12 hours from now jumping into it all and making it happen. I'll be doing plenty of coverage tonight when it all goes live, so be sure to check my channel for that. Until then, guys, take good care, and I'll see you in the Dark Zone. Bye-bye.